Are we filming? Yes, we are. So welcome to another video. This is a bit of a mixture, but bear with me. I'm talking about values and how I perceive some major changes in the US of A, regarding personal organisers and the availability of and the pricing of. But I want to go all the way back. And in order to go back, I need to have a swig of coffee. Oh, that's nice. I want to go back to the 15th of February, 1971. Here in the UK, we had decimalisation. We changed from LSD, not the drug, the pounds, shillings and pence. That had been the trade, the financial mechanism for payments that had lasted since, for over 1,000 years. 12 pennies in a shilling, etc. 20 shillings in a pound. And we changed overnight. Overnight, we changed to the metric system for money. I mean, we still have miles. All our signposts are still in miles rather than kilometres. And I like that. I'm in my 60s and, I don't like change. Well, it's very, very hard to get to grips with kilometres. So I digress, but miles I'm very, very happy with. But we, those of you that are in the US, obviously you work in pounds and ounces. Here we've got a hybrid system. We have miles, but we also have kilograms and grams. But when it comes to money, something happens. Now, I was a school kid in 1971. I like to think I was fairly astute with money. I knew the value of money because I didn't have much of it. And I noticed immediately in the sweet shops that the transition meant that shopkeepers always rounded up the conversion. So there's more profit overnight for the shopkeeper and less spending power for me as a consumer. Moving further on, when most of the European Union changed to the euro, if you were having a coffee in a Italian square, you would be paying one price in lira, and then overnight they did a massive amount of rounding up, and suddenly your relatively cheap coffee in lira suddenly cost €1 back in the day, which was quite a jump. Apparently, quite a jump. More recently, we've had Brexit in the UK, and retailers have used Brexit as a reason for prices going up. Even though Brexit happened many years ago, we're still suffering the legacy of retailers whacking the prices up because there is something they can blame it on. And this is what I'm getting to now. In the US, you will have noticed, no doubt, that the price of Filofax, specifically Filofax binders or personal organisers, are rising faster than the rate of inflation. And no doubt it is due perhaps to tariffs. But I wonder whether just a little bit has been added on because people can maybe say, oh, it's due to tariffs. I don't know. I may be talking out of turn. I may be talking out my backside, as they say here in the UK. But They are going up. They are going up. And I'm not going to quote the prices. I know the prices, but I'm not going to quote them because people might be watching this in 1 or 2 or 10 or 20 years and think, well, actually, those prices Neil's quoted are pretty cheap. And they will be in the fullness of time. So I'm not going to quote prices. But what I can tell you is I was looking at the price of a Filofax Norfolk, which is near the top end, not the absolutely top end, but a really nice binder or personal organiser from the Filofax brand. Not a budget model, but the price is roughly similar to a Vanderspec. Now, the Vanderspec will arguably be better quality materials. There's some options for customization at the factory. There is you can have a choice of stiffener. If flatability is something that you really appreciate, you can have it as a softer or a more rigid binder. And you get a choice of leathers and colours, and you can have the pockets where you want, and you can have, all sorts of things. Customization has value. People want something that is just made just for them. And that is something that's hard to quantify, but it is a value, it is a value proposition, if you like, which enhances things. As I understand it, the standard ones, this is a standard one, they're made in the Far East, as I understand it, and then the custom ones are made in the Netherlands and cost a bit more. But it's a very, very nice thing. Certainly on a par with the Norfolk. I would say they're very, very similar. But you do have the options for customization, and with these, I'm not going to show you the inside. Can I show you the inside? Yes, I can. You can you have Krauss rings, which are the best in the business and far exceed the ring quality that Filofax use themselves. I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying consistent good quality with Krauss. Maybe not so much with the rings that Filofax use, because anecdotally we know that there's a lot of problems with rings because for one reason or another. Who knows why there's so many problems with rings out of alignment and gaps with the rings with Filofax. But I've not heard of that with Vanderspec, for instance. Maybe they check these before they leave the factory. Maybe Filofax don't check them and rely on customer service. Maybe they're relying on the purchaser here or the US or all over the world to say, oh, hey, I'm doing your quality control for you. By the way, these rings are misaligned or they have gaps. And then in fairness to Filofax, they say, oh, no problem, we'll swap it over or whatever. But the thing is, my opinion is, rather than letting the customer do the quality control, maybe it would be better to have the quality control with the manufacturer. And that's not just important from a point of view of saving disappointment for the customer, but it's also better for the environment. Every time you reject a product and send it back through the postal system, there's a carbon footprint. There's a carbon footprint associated with that process. So you get it, and then you send it back, and then you get a replacement. So that postal process, whatever carbon footprint is attached to the shipping process, that is tripled, arguably. Sending it to you, then having to send it back, and then having to send a replacement, it triples the carbon footprint for that particular returns process. So I don't like to see that. I would rather quality control be done at the factory, before they put it in a cardboard box, rather than ship them out in the knowledge that they're going to be returned. So it's a bit of a moan, but it's like an anecdotal observation. But this is the thing. We are looking at prices of Filofax models in the US that, for whatever reason, have risen recently by quite a lot, and they are approaching, or perhaps equaling, the sort of price you would pay for a Vanderspec with the better rings, with the customization. You know, you might, with the customization, I'm not quite sure how much it is, but certainly the standard ones, they're on a par with the prices of, say, a Norfolk, as I understand it, unless you correct me. And I understand the attraction of the Norfolk because it's a great looking binder. It has a zip and pockets and a strap, a retaining strap in it. It is perfect for someone. And I know there are a lot of you out there that just have one or two binders and you want everything in one place. That's how I was 30 years ago. I just had one Filofax. It was the Filofax Norfolk. I still own it. I'm using it as a reference source now, rather than putting stamps in the pockets and everything. But I do understand the attraction of having zips and pockets in a personal organiser. I totally get it, because if you want to organise things personally, then clearly that is what you want to do. If you get to the other end of the spectrum where you have a collection of, shall we say, 200 binders, well, having everything in one binder kind of goes out the window, because I enjoy having different binders for different purposes. And that is why I'm loving at the moment simple binders like this. What's this? This is the Woozy Studio one, where it is just basically one piece of leather and some rings. So you cannot get simpler than that. However, there are lots of people that want something a little bit more sophisticated. They want this quality, so Krauss rings and the best leather that money can buy. And just bear with me a second. Oh, it's if I was a drug user, I imagine that a hit would be like that. Maybe a bit stronger, who knows? But that is certainly a hit. This sort of quality of leather and Krauss rings, but with compartments, zips and pockets. And this is what I suspect will happen. And I've just made a few notes and today I'm using a pucker pad, and I thought I'll just do a quick pen testing about it. So this is written with a TWSBI Go. It's the medium nib, and this is Noodler's Bulletproof ink. And this is 80 GSM paper, but let me just show you this. So this is pucker pad. It's a pucker pad, jotter pad, if you like. The bleed through is not good. So I wouldn't use this with a fountain pen, but it's an interesting thing. I mean, I've got a few of these. I think I bought a lot of these from Costco some time ago, probably about 10 years ago. But they're just sometimes really, really useful to have when you're jotting down notes. I quite like the A5 format in spiral bound, so you can fold it over, so it uses a minimal amount of space on your desk. So I quite like that, but I digress. Where are my notes? So I did a little bit of research, and I'm not naming them or providing links because they may go out of date. But I searched. I picked 20 companies, 20 leather manufacturing companies where they're making things like bags and, crucially, wallets. They're making wallets. And some of these businesses, which are steeped in tradition and oozing quality, were formed in not the 20th century, but the 19th century, and they're still going. Short runs, custom runs, high end. And then I had a look at the prices. Typically $120. I know I shouldn't quote prices for something that's a video that's supposed to be evergreen, but and I thought, hang on a minute. A wallet with a zipped compartment and multiple pockets with beautiful stitching and perfect leather, aimed at like the discerning market, was being sold retail, full retail price, presumably $120. And I thought, well, that's only slightly high. It's only slightly higher than half the price of a Norfolk, where I was thinking, if you have the skills and the tradition and the crafts, the ability to manufacture a wallet in America with American leather and an American tannery and all the manufacturing processes being done in America, the whole thing 100% produced in the United States of America and being sold for $120. The manufacturing processes that go into that wallet, with all the different sections and the sewing and the zip and everything, there's not much difference in the skills required to make a personal organizer. And certainly this was the case in the UK back in the 1980s, when we had the Filofax boom and lots of leather making companies jumped on the bandwagon and started making personal organizers in the sort of standard kind of Filofax format. A lot of these leather companies were making saddles in the First World War, leather belts, shotgun cartridge holders, vanity cases, traveling vanity cases, wallets, all sorts of things. And they were able to transition or add to their repertoire, their manufacturing repertoire. They were able to successfully use those skills, to harness those skills and start making Filofaxes. And I believe they only started doing that when the Filofax brand transitioned from making utilitarian binders that were aimed at the clergy and the army, etc., to something with more upmarket materials, and they were marketed as an object of desire, and then we had the Filofax boom in the 80s, and that happened because the prices that could be charged by the Filofax brand shot up, and then everybody and his dog jumped on the bandwagon because they wanted a piece of the action. And here we are with a situation, for whatever reason, where Filofax personal organisers made in the Far East, arguably for a tiny fraction of the ultimate retail price. And business is business. If they can sell them for £1,000, good luck to them. But this is the thing. There is a very, very strong brand awareness amongst people that have never had a Filofax before. And they think of a Filofax just like when they talk of a vacuum cleaner, they think of a Hoover. people will do the hoovering with a Dyson vacuum cleaner because the Hoover name is so synonymous with the product. And we have the same thing with Filofax. The brand is very, very strong, and whatever people think of the quality of the actual Filofax personal organisers themselves, the marketing is very, very slick, and it trades very much on its historical position in the market. So, I need to have a little drink of coffee. Sorry about that. I felt like a preacher man there. So you've got these inherent skills embedded within US industry. You've got the raw materials, i.e. the leather. You've got the know-how to potentially make binders that can compete against these Filofax personal organisers that are certainly anecdotally much more expensive in real terms than they have been in the past. They are going to be in the future, I suspect, competing against companies like Vanderspec. But also, there's a lot of people out there who love this slimline look, and this is a design that is well over 100 years old. A single piece of leather, no closures, just some rings. It replicates what Filofax themselves were offering back in the day when they were making these in England, the 3CL, for instance. But there were many. There were many that had no pockets at all. Some were made of leather. Some were made of like leather cloth or cardboard. This is a cardboard one. It's the Filofax OL 7/8. Okay, 7/8 rings, but I think this is just thick cardboard covered in like a thin leather cloth. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. But there are people, including me, that absolutely love these. And we are seeing, what are we seeing in the marketplace? We're seeing Plotter. Plotter started making these 5 years ago. Me Plus are coming up on the rails. They've been going a couple of years, I believe. Then there's Woozy Studio, who make this one. So there are companies out there, some larger like Plotter, some smaller like Me Plus, who recognise that there is a market for this product. And there are people like me and others who are enthusing over the sort of slimline style. And so there is demand there. There is demand. There is frustration from people like me who have had to go to enormous lengths. Well, I over exaggerate, but it's difficult to get hold of a Plotter. Before Me Plus started shipping around the world, it was difficult to get a Me Plus. So it is something where there is a growing awareness of the fact that you don't have to wait forever and send off emails to Filofax anymore saying, please, can you please reintroduce slimline binders from yesteryear? The closest we have got, really, I guess, is the Filofax Heritage, which is nice, which is a nice thing. I do like this, and I bought this brand new. Sadly, from brand new, the rings were misaligned, but I just took a hit for the team, and rather than send it back, I just decided to just keep it, but there are more players in the market. Social media, including YouTube, and the internet in general, allows small companies to become more noticeable. We have global shipping these days. We have companies such as MePlus smoothing the purchasing process and removing the fear of VAT and import duties and customs fees by just paying all that up front, including the shipping, so the price you pay is exactly the same price as listed on their website. So companies are very adept at doing that. And you can get something like this for a lot less. You could get 2 of these for the price of 1 Norfolk. And this has got the finest, this is the Woozy, finest Italian leather, the best rings you can get hold of. And, you know, would I perhaps consider, if I wanted everything in one place, how about having 2 of these for the price of 1 Filofax Norfolk? Who knows? Each to their own, as we say in the UK. But here's the thing. It is not beyond the realms of credibility for, in the same way as what happened to the leather making industry in the UK during the Filofax boom of the 1980s. It only takes 1 or 2 of those companies that have the skill to make wallets to think, hang on a minute, consumers in the US are willing to pay a certain number of dollars, and it's over $200. I promise I wouldn't quote any figures, but $200 in over $200 in 2025 as I record this, with the made somewhere in the Far East and then shipped halfway around the world. And they might think, I'd rather buy an equivalent product from a US leather artisan company for maybe the similar sort of price, with the best quality leather, with the best quality Kraus rings, because a leather company could easily put in an order to, Kraus in Germany, no problem. They might have to pay some of the they might have to pay a tariff, but they're only paying the tariff on the rings, not the whole binder, which is made but with American labour in the US using American leather. And so there is better quality control, because you can be sure that if a leather making company who are relying on their reputation for leather manufacturing, they're going to be checking those rings. They're not going to be just shoving in the box and then not worrying about it. They're going to be checking those rings. They're going to be checking the quality of the leather, the stitching. There's all sorts of things that you can employ to speed the process up with leather making, like laser cutting and automated stitching that can make the manufacturing process more economical, but without it looking mass produced. Excuse me. No tariffs, and crucially, and this is perhaps especially important for, I suspect, many of you who enjoy using paper-based productivity in your lives. I have a hunch, I can't be certain, but it's a reasonable hunch, and it is my hunch, so I'm going to stick with it. It will have a lower carbon footprint. That product, the American personal organizer made with American materials other than the rings, and shipped within the US, will have a lower carbon footprint. So it is more sustainable. It would probably have, there's no question about it. It will have a a better quality feel. It will be made of proper leather rather than largely plastic underneath and cardboard layers with a thin layer of leather glued on top of that. You know, they look good, don't they? But once you get wear, if you have something that has a man-made substrate, a well-used version will start going at the court. You know, it just looks unsightly. Here we go. If that doesn't come up well, I will put a photograph here, but you can see that it doesn't look good. If you've got a man-made substrate, whatever's lurking underneath this thin layer, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. But if you have something that is solid leather, there is, you know, after 100 years of use, this will probably look even better than it is now. Who knows? If one of my great-grandchildren are watching this in 100 years' time, then let me know. Let me know whether this still exists, because it is a good possibility that this will be around in 100 years' time. Because this sort of leather lasts potentially for hundreds and hundreds of years. But well, we're being a little bit euphemistic there. But the product will be almost certainly something that you will cherish and love and maybe show off to your friends. If whether they're male or female, it will be a smart looking thing. American made, using American materials, using American skilled workers, and they could undercut what's coming in to America from the Far East. Which would you pick? If you went into a store, a stationery store, there's a really interesting one in Chicago that I have bought one or two things from, that's been there over 100 years, I believe. And you saw a Filofax Norfolk on the shelf, or an American-made calf leather binder with perfect flatability, perfect stitching, made in the good old US of A, for the same price. What would you buy? What would you buy? I'm going to leave it there, because I think that the higher, for whatever reason, the higher the price that the Filofax brand thinks the market in America will bear, the closer they get to the situation where one or more of these existing leather manufacturing companies that are skilled in the making of bags and, crucially, wallets, where the manufacturing process is very similar to making a personal organizer. The closer they get to that price point, the closer, the more likely there will be for a trigger in the market, and they'll have a lot of competition on their hands. And that's my final point. Think about it. And if there is any leather manufacturer out there watching this, you know, there's a market here. There's a potentially untapped market for your skills and services, which provide jobs in the US, rather than the people in the airport handling the pallet of Far Eastern manufactured personal organisers that are coming through. You know, it's an interesting thing. It is an interesting thing, and I'm watching the market with interest. Thanks very much for watching. Until my next video, goodbye.